John Paul is the systemizing king when it comes to letting agency, and I asked him what's the biggest issues at the moment, and he said staff, and I said, can you talk to us about that with particular attention to millennials? So on you go, son. You've got 40 minutes, off you go.
Thank you very much, Pet.
Candy bag of tuna.
Don't get your expectations up too much about millennials. I couldn't really find much apart from sack them. But I have got a slide at the end where I did a bit of research. So Chris asked us a couple of weeks ago, have you got anything on millennials? So I've sort of condensed it, put it in a bit of a format, and we'll have a bit of a chat later on. But yeah, everybody knows me as systems. I love my systems, procedures and stuff. But even more than that, I love staff and how we treat our staff. It makes a business. They are the business. You know, leadership's great, values are great, absolutely fantastic. Systems are great, KPIs, you name it. But if you don't have the right staff, the right bums on the right seat, you don't have a business. Does everybody agree with that? What goes on in this room stays in this room. So none of this Facebook, I'm awesome, my staff are great, my business is making £1 trillion a week. Who generally has either had staff issues recently or has currently got them? And I'm putting my hand up myself. You know? If you have, thank you very much for putting your hands up. If you haven't, stop lying. Or you're a one-man band, and when you get your first staff member, you will have issues. It's just part and parcel of being in business. You will have problems with staff. It's how we react to those problems and how we grow a business. So I don't know about you, but call me gullible, but I believe in unicorns, ghosts, and accountable and motivated staff. This is the nirvana that we're all looking for. We want to be able to leave our business, walk away from our business, even for a 2-week holiday, 1-week holiday, and then you come back and the staff are absolutely kicking butt and they're really pushing it forward. How many times that genuinely happen? A lot less than it actually does happen. So what I'm going to do today is just 40 minutes, just very, very quick, and this is a very great overview. I'm not going to talk about Myers and Briggs and DISC and Belbin tests and all this like real laser focus stuff. This is just about how you can get better out of your current stuff, and there's going to be some really good takeaways for you today, and hopefully you can put this and implement it into your business, and you should start seeing some real improvements very, very quickly. So we're going to talk about, I think, six slides, 5 minutes on each, and we're going to talk about values and beliefs. We're then going to talk about recruitment and how you recruit the right staff, and the biggest issue when people recruit wrongly, they recruit on the wrong things, so they don't look at what's really important to them and the business, and we'll go over that. The first 3 months, again, it doesn't end when you say you've got the job, you're hired, start on Monday. A big mistake what people say is that there's the operations manual. If they've got an operations manual, I'll see you in 3 months and we'll see how you coped. Big mistake. How to motivate and manage staff. This actually isn't as difficult as what you might think, because I'm going to talk about what staff crave and what they want. I'm going to bring in a little bit of theory, motivational theory. If you've heard of Maslow and Alderfer and Hertzberg, don't worry, I'm not going to go all nerdy on you. But this isn't my opinion. This is behavioral theorists, you know, world-renowned people, neurologists, not Scientologists. That's a completely different skill set. I haven't got Tom Cruise or anybody like that. But some real big hitters in the world of psychology and neurology. And it's what actually motivates people and what gets you up in the morning. And you'll be surprised. And if anybody who thinks it's money, absolutely wrong. It's never money. Managing difficult staff. It's not thumping them or sacking them or anything like that. It's how you can just get the best out of them and get them out of that rut. And ultimately, we're going to talk about leadership as well. So leadership is a very, very undervalued and underrated thing. And it was great to hear John and Matt talking about leadership and how you can get the best out of yourself, and you've got to know what you're good at and what you're bad at. And part of being a leader is self-awareness, self-regulation. It's effectively emotional intelligence, emotional quota, EQ, if anybody's heard of that before. And I studied that quite a lot over the last couple of years. My last degree was on emotional intelligence and leadership, and I'm doing a master's at the moment, and that's on leadership. And the stuff you learn when you actually delve into the theory of it is amazing, and it just opens up your eyes to how much leadership can be brought into your business and how you can get the best out of them. And you will have a team of superheroes. But I don't know if you notice there's a structure, there's a format, there's something that you've got to follow in order to get that superhero status. And that's what we are in life. We want structure, we want that format. So values and beliefs. So values are principles and standards of behaviour. That's how you've been brought up. So it's how your parents bring you up. It's the experience you've had as a young child all the way through to today. They will never change, or they shouldn't change. Beliefs are an accepting that something is true or not true. And they can change. I believe, still to this day, Sunderland Football Club is a decent football club. I know I'm wrong deep down, but that's a false belief. That's very much a limiting belief, isn't it, John? And it's a false belief. But beliefs can change. Beliefs will change just by a little bit of information. Having a conversation with somebody. Oh, I thought this. No, that's wrong. All right, so your belief will change, but your value should never change. So when you recruit, when you have a business, everything to do with running your business, operating your business, has to come from values and beliefs. If you don't, how the hell can you have a successful business when everybody has different values, different beliefs? You know, people at work coming in at 9:05, they're shooting off at 1 minute to 5. They haven't got the same values as you, and they haven't got the same belief set, and it's important to get everybody on the same page. It has to come from the top. It's got to be an extension of you. If you don't believe in the values that your business have, then how do you expect to recruit people on those same values? It's impossible, you can't do it. So I'll give you a real life example. Our values are be better. Alan doesn't like these for various reasons, but ours are be better. We're always trying to be better. It's not be the best, because again, if we're not the best, or we don't take a property on, or we don't win a valuation, or we lose a property, then that means we've failed. That's not necessarily the case. We just want to be better tomorrow than what we are today. So those are our values, or my values. So if some of you will know my sporting background, there's no point going into the ring or the cage or rugby field if you don't want to be the best, because you couldn't get hurt. So I always wanted to be the best. Doesn't mean I want to employ, an office full of cage fighters or anything like that, although it does come in handy when you deal with LHA tenants. But what it means is I just want people to be better. I just want them to strive. In the corporate world, it's called continuous improvement. So if that makes it easier. So we just try and employ and recruit people and nurture that talent so they always want to be better. Surround yourself with those similar values. Again, if you've got people who aren't bothered, they don't share the same things as you, it's not aligned, it's never going to work. And that's the issues you have. So when I said, put your hands up if you've got problems with staff, I hazard a guess that 99 out of 100 of those instances are because they don't have the same values as you. You can teach people talent. People can become talented at something. You can't teach them values. You either have it or you don't. Cannot be deviated from. If that is the values of your business, that is set. It is the rock of your business. It does not change, alter in any way, shape or form. Now, some of your staff that you've currently got won't share the same values as you. Now, don't expect some of you to go back and start firing people who don't want to be better. But what you can do is you can roll your values out, because it's a very easy process to do. You come up with your values, what's important to you, make it a big company thing, roll it out across the branches or the office. Now, when they work for you between 9 and 5, they have to share and have those values. So none of this nicking off at a couple of minutes to 5 or having an extra hour and 10 minutes on your lunch break. They want to share the same values, whatever that may be. Now, it could be honesty, integrity, it could be anything of those. But ours are be better, so we want people to try and improve themselves at all costs. Does that all make sense so far? Has anybody gone through the values process and having values across your branches? Apart from Alan. Really strongly suggest you do it. It's a very, very good process. It will get buy-in from your staff, and especially if you get them involved into the actual coming up with the values. So I knew what I always wanted to be, so we got all our managers involved in it. We said, well, what do you feel? How do you think the values of the company should be? To be honest, we already knew what the values roughly were going to be. It was all about that continuous improvement. And when they came up with the Be Better slogan, it hit the nail on the head. And funnily enough, everybody who came up with the Be Better slogan or liked it is with us today, and the 2 or 3 staff who didn't like it at the time, they're not with us today. It's funny that. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago. But it's funny how you share the same values, people agree with your values, you tend to go further along the journey. When you have structure in a business, people stay motivated. The reason people don't stay motivated is why? Things go wrong, mistakes happen, You start bickering, managers start talking about, to the staff, why haven't you done this? I didn't know it was my job. So if you've got structure in a business based on the rock solid foundation of values, I'm not saying, we've got values, we've got structures, we've got systems, we've got KPIs. We still get the same issues. We still recruit the wrong staff, but it massively reduces the issues we've got because we've got this structure in the business. They are your moral compass. They will guide you in every decision you make. We have got a tenant fee ban coming up. Some of people in this room will be struggling financially. But if you've got values, then every decision you make, like taking on a shitty landlord, taking on a cheap fee, potentially doing something that you wouldn't normally do if you had cash in the bank, completely honest. If you've got values and morals, you won't make those decisions that could potentially land you in hot water later on. So values and beliefs are essential. So I've got an agency roadmap, and it's 9 modules. And the first one is always values and beliefs. And anybody I work with, we don't go on to prospecting or KPIs or anything like that until we discover what the values and beliefs are. Because without values and beliefs, everything else is immaterial. You write your recruitment policy based on your values and beliefs. Your systems are written with values and beliefs in mind. Your training and development is with your values and beliefs in mind. Your sales is with values and beliefs. The example I use is Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. Awesome, wasn't he? Would anybody invest their and their family's money with him? No. Somebody said yes then, I think. Why not? Because he had a different value set. He was very good at what he did, but that's just a real good example of somebody you wouldn't want to work with because they didn't feel what you believed in. They didn't have the same values as you. Any questions on that before we move on to recruitment? Nope. So recruitment. Base your recruitment on your values, your beliefs, and your vision. And it was really good to hear Matt talking about the vision. I think John mentioned it as well. Have your vision. You get the buy-in on that. Tell people where you want to take the company, where you are now, where you see yourself, where you see the company, and values and beliefs of that company, and people will buy into that. You can teach people capability. They will become competent. You cannot teach them to have the same values as you. If you've got a half-decent training development program, you will make them a good agent. You will make them a good valuer, sales neg, lettings neg, whatever it is. If you haven't got the same value set, forget it. You're done. They will not last. I've never known anybody who has different values to us last longer than 2 years, 18 months. It does not happen. It's not an either-or process. So again, when you're recruiting people, it's not a case of do they have the same values or are they good at their job? You can have both. They can have the same values and they can be capable. But if it came down to an either-or, make sure that they've got the same values as you first, and then you can teach them that capability. It's great if they're capable and they're competent and they're really good, kick-ass sales neg and they're a value and they're going to list like crazy. That's great, but make sure they've got the same values as you. Don't rush to recruit. I'd rather have a hole in my business than an arsehole. And it's true. Make sure everybody is the same as you, not in terms of your ability, but has the same values. Do not just take somebody on because you're rushing around, you haven't had somebody's left you 2 months ago, or somebody's got maternity leave, or whatever it is. Make sure you get the right person for the right role. Who's hired very quickly before and hired the wrong person? It happens a lot more often than what we think, doesn't it? Just take your time. Make sure you get the right person whose values are aligned with you. Hire slow, fire fast. Take your time. If they don't work out, boom. That's what your probation period's for. Your first 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. You won't get in trouble with HR, I promise. I'm not guaranteeing it. Obviously, I'm not insured for that, but we haven't so far. If it doesn't work out in the first 3 months, it probably never will. If you're having to give somebody, warnings or take them through disciplinary in the first couple of weeks, couple of months, it's not going to work. Values again. When you go on your first date with your wife or your husband, you're on your best behaviour at least the first couple of times, aren't you? If you're not on your first behaviour, your first date, then you're pretty much dead in the water. That relationship's not going to work out. It's the same here. First 3 months, you should be absolutely smashing it. And if you're not, there's something wrong. First 3 months. So you get one chance to make a first impression, make sure it's a good one. So again, a lot of times when we work with people and work with agencies, they don't have the recruitment, they don't have the induction process mapped out. The first 3 months is incredibly important. It sets the tone, it sets the culture. And there's a bit of a model, SSOOO. I couldn't make it sound any nicer than that. So it's share the company values. They've already seen what the company values are. They should have seen them right back at the recruitment process. But make sure they understand what your values are of the entire business and where you're going. It's your vision as well. Set the expectations. Setting expectations is a big, big thing. Make sure they know what they're meant to do, when they're meant to do it, how they're meant to do it, what's standard. If you do that, then there's no, oh, I didn't think it was my job. Was I meant to do that? Or wasn't Fred meant to do that? Susie said she was going to do that. If you set the expectations right at the beginning, you can't have any mistakes coming out later on. Offer support. Be there to help them, to nurture them, but in a controlled manner. Not micromanage, by the way. There's a big difference between offering support and micromanaging somebody. Open communication. A lot of the time, again, I see where business owners and business leaders will recruit somebody and then they'll just pass them across to somebody else and that's it. That's my job done. Your job is to nurture that talent to make sure they last the first 3 months. Open communication. Always be available for your staff. Even though we've got 55 staff and 7 branches, everybody's got my personal mobile. And believe it or not, they don't use it. So don't think by giving your personal mobile out to the staff, you're going to get a phone call at midnight and 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I might get a phone call every 6 to 8 weeks off one of the staff. And I'll say, right, what's it about? Oh, I've got this problem with my manager. Great. Have you told your manager no? Well, you know what you need to do. Speak to your manager. And over-deliver. Oops, I'm in your way. Try and over-deliver with every member of your team all the time. Offer more support than you think they need, more communication. Just be there for them. Any questions about that? I think the carb coma's really hit in, hasn't it, after lunch? How to motivate and manage staff. Who finds it quite difficult to motivate and manage staff? All experts. Oh, a couple out there. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because there's a theory called, well, it's not a theory, it actually works very well in practice, called situational leadership, which is how you've got to change and adapt your leadership or management style to suit different people. And unless you've been in a corporate environment, and a good, positive corporate environment, you will probably have had bad experiences of managers. You will have really crappy experiences of one-to-ones. Who's had poor one-to-ones before? Where it's demotivating more than motivating. We use one-to-ones as either a reset meeting or a motivating meeting, whatever it is. Even a negative one, if you notice, we don't use the word negative, a bit like what John was on about before. We call it a reset meeting. So we all want structure. We want that safe feeling. Again, that's not me. That is what neurologists are saying. So we want to belong. We want to belong to a tribe, a gang, and a work structure. So if we don't have work structures, your procedures, all your policies, your training and development, and the staff member doesn't work out, are they failing us or are we failing them? I think we're failing them. If we haven't given this person the best possible chance to succeed in our business, then we're the arsehole, not them. Going back to my phrase about a hole in a business, not an arsehole. You need to give every single person that you employ the best chance of succeeding. So what motivates us? This is the bit of the theory. So if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he talks about self-actualization, so he's at the top of the triangle. McClelland, he's got the needs fit theory. Alderfer, the G in ERG is growth or advancement. Look at those words at the end. Self-actualization, achievement, advancement, ambition, attainment. Apart from the fact they all start with A, what do you think they've got in common? What do they mean? They're roughly the same thing, aren't they? Yeah. Progressive targets and goals. So bearing that in mind, if progressive targets and goals and achieving something and having ambition motivates us, how do you think you'll motivate your staff in the workplace? Communication, giving them targets, giving them goals, giving them something to achieve. That's what will motivate our staff. And how many people actually do that? How many people sit down on a monthly basis, do really good one-to-ones, say this is where you are, this is where you need to get to, don't worry, we've got short, medium, long-term goals, aspirations, we're going to get you there, we're going to help you. Whoa, it's great. How many people generally do that? Not many. So we're failing them by not giving them the ability and the resources that they need to achieve their goals. So procedures, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about systems. You've got off lightly with that one. But systems and procedures are a big, big way of giving targets and goals to somebody. It's giving that structure. So the two things I want you to remember is structure and goals. So if we give them structure by procedures, they're going to be more motivated because they know where they are. Nobody wants to come in on a Monday morning and get a rollicking off your manager. I think when Matt was on about it, he was Sunday dread. If you think you're dreading going in, how do you think your staff are feeling? But by giving them procedures and systems, you're giving them a fighting chance of achieving the company goals, and then you can break it down into the individual goals. So it's a basis for ongoing management and accountability. You cannot get out, if you've got good solid systems and procedures, you can't get the blames culture. It just won't happen. Tell a lie, it'll happen for the first 3 months, and then once you get past that, it won't happen after that. Skills matrix, or the individual learning plan. So I spoke about this before on various forums. 1 second. So what a skills matrix is, it's effectively a learning plan that every single staff member in your business should have. If they don't, how can you set them short, medium, long-term goals for their learning, their personal development? You can't. So by having a skills matrix, it lists out all the sort of actions and the accountability that they're meant to be doing, and then you rate them 1 to 4. 4 mean over exceeding, 1 is underperforming. And then you rate them. With them, you sit down together and you say, where do you think you are? Where do you think you are on chasing arrears or, sales negging or whatever it is, or customer service or positive attitude? You find out where they are, they score themselves, and that is the baseline, and that's where you can move forward together. And then you can prioritize the learning. If they say, I'm really, really crap at arrears training or arrears chasing, and you agree with them, then you're going to prioritize that learning. Instead of putting them in every Friday, a 2 hours training session on leadership or management or KPIs, which actually isn't relevant to them, which is a lot of the corporate model, isn't it? You go do your monthly or your weekly training on stuff that might not even be relevant to you. This laser focus is the training, so you can actually identify what issues your staff have on an individual basis, and you can get them up that ladder quicker and more efficient. It also shows the improvements as well. So again, it's mini targets. So if somebody's really poor at chasing arrears, or somebody's poor at tenant applications or whatever it is, you can give them that additional training. They will see very, very quick improvements. And once they see the improvements, based on the previous slide, that's going to motivate them, isn't it? Because it's hitting short-term targets. It's giving them structure. Monthly one-to-ones. We mentioned before about how a poor one-to-one is really, really demotivating. A great one-to-one is an incredibly useful tool. Right? It sets accountability. They can't get out of it. You have to have uncomfortable conversations with people sometimes, but that's part of being in business. If you don't like uncomfortable conversations, then business is not for you. If you want to be the friend, phone the Samaritans. You're in business, and sometimes you need to make those difficult decisions, whether it's letting people go, it's performance managing people, it's having a real tough conversation with somebody about why they're not performing. But do it effectively. Has anybody heard of pardon French, the shit sandwich before? Where you deliver crap news sandwiched in between 2 good newses? That's weak management. The theory behind it is you deliver good news, good news, so you sort of gloss over the bad news. Well, obviously the bad news is the one that you want them to take notice of and to improve. Now, if you're too scared as a leader, or you're not confident enough as a leader or a business owner to deliver that negative news, then the issue's on you, not that person. You need to have the ability to communicate and deliver that information to that person, and hopefully, they will improve. And it can deal with issues immediately. Don't put off one-to-ones. You might need to have that really, really tough conversation with somebody to improve them. If you're improving several people in your business, what's going to happen in your business? Your business is going to improve. They're going to hit more listings, hit those targets, bring more income in. And it realigns expectations as well. So if somebody thought that the way they were going in the business is the right for them, you can pull them back during the one-to-one and say, no, I want you to concentrate on this. Remember we had this conversation last month and I wanted you to hit these targets? Don't worry about that, that's covered. I need you to get better at this. I need you to, try harder in this particular area. Does that all make sense? Anybody got any questions on that? Didn't think staff was so boring. Cool, managing difficult staff. You've got to act quick. Again, you know, there's some people that I do know that don't like to have those conversations with people, and they put it off and they put it off and they put it off. It's the worst thing you can do, because it'll just manifest itself. It'll get worse and worse and worse. And it's the same as anything. If you think about something too long, by the time you've actually addressed it, it's 10 times worse than what it would have been if you spoke about it, you know, a month or so ago. So act quick, communicate all points, show evidence. So we're on about millennials, right? Where sometimes with millennials, it's their attitude. It's just a really crappy, couldn't care less, don't give a monkey's type of attitude. Attitude is still a capability. You can still manage somebody on how capable they are. So attitude. And this is why it's very, very important with your values and beliefs. So remember hours where be better, and somebody's, you know, on the phone and they're not giving them monkeys and they're just playing around. I can manage somebody, or the staff can manage their subordinates on their attitude. So it's one of the most difficult things is to manage people on, is just the way they come across, where you can't put your finger on it. I just don't think they're committed. I just don't think they're motivated. They've got a bit of a attitude. You know, we've all employed them, where they'll turn up when they're meant to, they'll go home when they're meant to, they won't take the mick and take 2 hours for lunch break, but it's just something about them and you can't put your finger on it. If you've got a training matrix and a training plan, attitude is one of your things that you can actually, you know, measure somebody on. Relate it back to the values we spoke about. Use procedures and KPIs. Again, if somebody's not achieving something, then you can say, well, your procedures say you have to do this. The KPIs or your targets are this, this, and this. Why haven't you hit them? And then you can try and manage them and improve the performance. There's only 2 reasons if somebody doesn't do something in the business. It's either a skill or a will. It's all it can be. So if it's a skill, you can upskill them, train them. If it's a will, it's a motivational issue, and then that's a completely different conversation to have. But either way, you can manage that person based on a skill or a will. You can performance manage them as well. So again, if somebody's not performing, you can put them on special plans, special performance management plans. It sounds really corporate. It's not. You just probably meet a little bit extra, you know, once a week instead of once a month. You might have a little bit more things that you want them to report back to you. But in the main, it's pretty much just I'm putting you on like extra detention or extra work. You know, you've got to report back to me a little bit more often. Nobody is bigger than the company. It doesn't matter if it's your chief lister and he or she has been there for 10, 15 years. If they're not performing and they won't change and they've got no aspirations of changing, get them out of the business. Culture is more important to any business than any one person. And if the culture sets in and it's a negative or a rotten culture, then it won't be that person that goes. It'll be one of your good staff. Your good staff always leave before your bad staff if you leave it to their own devices. And again, if you performance manage somebody like really, really well and very tightly, they will leave before they're pushed. Has anybody performance managed anybody and that actually happened, where they've left before they were pushed? Yeah, it works, doesn't it? Very, very tightly, you know, weekly updates, whatever it is. You haven't done this, why? Uncomfortable conversations. They know they're coming in on a Monday to a rollicking because they didn't do something over the weekend. That's fine. If they didn't do it, then you need to have that conversation. But they will get sick about having those conversations a lot quicker than you will have having those conversations with that person. Is there any questions on that? You're either all taking it in or you're very, very sleepy. A bit of both. Leadership. So I'm not going to talk too much on leadership because it's pretty much, you could, you know, Simon Sinek and Zig Ziglar talk for like weeks at a time on it. So I'm just going to talk about leadership, what it is to me. So it's about commitment. It is about leaders eat last. It is about showing that, you give it your all. There's a really good guy called John Maxwell over in America, and he talks about the 5 levels of leadership. Really good book if you haven't read it. And in it, it's a pyramid, and on the bottom rung is position. People will follow you as a leader just because you've got MD or CEO or because you own the company. You want people to follow you or look at you as a leader because of the things that are above it, which is permission. They follow you because you have their permission. Product, because you kick ass. Maybe you're the best lister in the entire town, so they respect you because of that. People will follow you because of what you do for them. So remember, bringing it back to, you're bringing somebody up, you're investing your time and effort and energy in them. And you'll have heard real leaders produce other leaders. That's that one as well. So it's very important that if you want to go up the leadership level, the leadership ladder, start investing in your people. Because if you don't, they won't look at you as that type of leader. Emotional intelligence, briefly mentioned it. So there's another guy called Daniel Goleman who's very, very famous on it. Self-regulation, self-awareness. So knowing what you're good and bad at and being able to do something about it. Social skills, how you interact with others and how they interact with you. Empathy, having that thought of how are they feeling. I might have to adapt the way I am because of how they're feeling. So those types of things, emotional intelligence, incredibly important to becoming a good leader. Communication skills, again, we spoke about that. And there was a really good stat what Giggsy had put up about the Carnegie Institute, where 15% is down to technical ability of being a leader and 85% is all about your communication skills. I did that up on the slide, but I had to take it out so it looks like I was copying him. Calmness as well, calmness under pressure. As estate agents and letting agents, we have never been collectively under as much pressure as what we are now. Tenant fee ban, more regulation, impending regulation. We have to stay calm under pressure. And this is my definition. So when I came up with this for my last degree, when I did my thesis, I looked at probably about 70 or 80 different, 70 or 80 different definitions, and I sort of amalgamated them, and I think it's turning vision into reality using influence to create followers. So if you've got your vision, and remember we said before about your values and beliefs and having people buy into your vision, if you're achieving your goals, remember it boils down to two words, structure and goals. If you've got structure in your business, and you've got goals, and you achieve those goals, i.e. reality, then people are going to follow you, because if they bought into your vision to start off with, and you were achieving that vision, then you're going to drag them. I'll take that back. You don't have to drag them along. They'll be pushing you up the hill. They'll be coming along with you without you having to do any work. You will have a team of superheroes. I promise you. If you do everything, you have the structure, you have the goals, you engage with your staff, you look after your staff, you get rid of the bad apples. One of the worst things we ever did was keep people too long in our business. Now we don't. That's what your probation's for. If they don't work out, get them out of your business. Any questions? Sorry? It's non-gender specific, by the way. I know. Has it gone off?
Was it you?
I think introspection and self-development for a leader or a manager is most important.
Absolutely.
Adaptability internally to certain situations and really just evolving that way is quite important in terms of becoming a role model too.
Absolutely, and that's emotional intelligence. So you've effectively just described it. So that is exactly that, self-awareness, self-regulation, knowing what you're good at, what you're bad at, and then putting things in place to become better at it. Or if you're poor at it, just delegate it. But it's introspection, isn't it? It's becoming a better person and a better leader. Brian?
Have you finished the presentation?
I've got one on millennials, if anybody wants a quick.
Go on, let's do the millennials, then we'll do
It's literally 4 points. It should say, are we, never mind the millennials. So, as I said, I only had about 2 weeks to research this and go through it. I'm on a couple of what you call growth forums or management or leadership forums all across America and the world, etc. And I'll be honest, no one had one particular answer. At least if you look at motivational theory, you can see they've all adapted from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which was the daddy, if you like it. Prospecting in business. I mean, me and Luke were talking about Josh Fegan, but he's got it off somebody else. Millennials, nobody has the answer. Not the the golden goose, so to speak. So I've read a ton of stuff, listened to a ton of podcasts and videos and whatnot. Don't disconnect with them. Allow them to use their technology. It's what they want. It's what they're good at. So if you can use it in your business, then actually try and use it. Don't dismiss it. As businesses, we are having to become more technologically aware. Facebook's going absolutely massive. Instagram, Google, etc., etc. Use their ability and their knowledge. Structure is important to them. If you don't give them structure, they will go start making crushed avocado and toast with whole grain bread and stuff. You need to stop that. Set the rules straight from the beginning. Get rid of the avocado and whatnot. Give them structure, and these are the rules of the game. If you want to work here, these are the rules for the game. They crave belonging. They want a culture. They are a bit lost if you look at, the reports and stuff. Does anybody not know what millennials are, apart from pains in the arse? All right, good. Pardon? Yeah, it's just young people who are on Facebook all the time. Give an inch, but don't give a mile. So this is a twofold. So they do want that little bit of individuality. So give them a little bit, but don't give them a lot. And that's twofold. Don't give them a lot, give them a mile, because they will start to take. But also don't give them a mile, because everybody else in your business who's not millennials, they will start to see them as the favourites. So it's not the absolute answer, because there isn't one. It's going to come down to how you interact with them, how you communicate with them, setting those expectations and manage them on those expectations. But again, if they're not going to work out, they're not going to work out. I think it boils down to a lot about them as well. Yes, you're going to get some pains in the bum and what have you, but we employ a couple of late 20s, early 30s guys who are absolutely brilliant. So by the definition of a millennial, they're millennials, but they're not the traditional definition that we see on Facebook, Simon Sinek shouting and screaming at.
Okay, any Q&As?
So my question is, how do you employ good staff? Because me in the past, I've employed staff through recruitment companies, and let's be honest, they're not cheap, are they? So what would you suggest?
Are you on about how do you get them there to see your advert in the first place? Or like once you've got them?
How do you employ them? I mean, how do you employ good staff? Where do you find them from?
Recruitment companies serve a purpose. It's one of the things. It's like casting your net out. Facebook's really good. Other referrals within your network. We tell our staff we pay them, I think it's 300, 400 quid if they can refer somebody that we employ. We poach them off other companies as well. And I absolutely sleep soundly at that if anybody wants to know how I feel about it. So once you get them, then you've got to make sure that they're right for you, and you do that by your values. Again, but I think your question was like, how do you get them to come to you, or how do you find them in the first place? Yeah, just cast your net as wide as you can.
I was going to ask what your thoughts are on employing people who know people really well. So like a friend, like a close friend of a friend.
Yes.
I've had a few problems with that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that if you set the expectations from the beginning. So if you've got the structure in the business that, we've got family members in some of our businesses. And it's a case of, right, you come to work, you're not husband and wife. You've got to do your job. You've got the expectations, the systems and the procedures, etc. We'll define that and we'll stop it. And, if for any reason they step over that mark, then it's like a reset meeting or a bit of a conversation to be had. But I can see the difficulty in it if you don't have that structure in the business.
Anything else? Cup of tea in a minute, guys and girls. Was that you, James?
Yeah, JP, is there any particular tips you'd give at an interview in terms of trying to establish someone's values and systems and all that kind of stuff? Because that's kind of where, I find we can actually talk more about the vision of our business. Yes. You don't spend enough actually trying to get under their skin.
Yeah, good question. So in an interview, roughly, it's the 80-20. You talk 20%, you listen to them 80%. So when you ask a question, you just, you've got 2 ears and 1 gob for a reason. Just shut up and just listen to them. But you've got to try and elicit what their values are. One of the best ways is to ask them for stories. Give me an example when. Tell me a story when. Because the brain cannot... If everybody says, do you like lettings? They go, yes. It's easy. Do you like sales? Yes. You're hired. But if you ask for stories, the brain can't lie quick enough. So what comes out of the mouth is probably either going to be complete and utter tosh, and you can just look at them and go, you're lying to me, pal. Or it's the truth, and you can elicit the values. It's not foolproof, but it's better than asking. So give me an example of your strengths and weaknesses. Tell me what you enjoyed about your last job. A couple of tips is one we say, and we have had a couple of really good results, is thanks Brian, thanks for coming. So when I phone up your last boss or your previous employer, what they will say about you. And they'll go, they'll say I'm really engaged. And they say, no, seriously, what will they say? Oh, well, they might say this, they might say that. So you always follow up with, no, what will they really say? Another one is, if you think back to a time where you've, in a relationship, personal, social, and something had to change to make that relationship better, what would that be? If it's a case of, oh, well, he would have had to do that, she would have had to do that, the very blame culture, you can see straight away, well, if they're blaming somebody in the interview, what they're going to be like when they start. So little nuggets like that work quite well. Again, there's not one question that's like, it's going to give you, you're going to have like a Life of Brian moment where you've just found the Messiah. It's going to be a case of 10, 15 questions, listen to them, and then you can use your bit of common sense and find out the good from the bad.
Lovely. I think you're going to be at the bar later, so JP, cheers mate.
I'd get us now before the bar.
Yeah.